Hearing the words, "You've got cancer," sent my world crashing. This came just 4 years after losing my husband to the same disease, and I was terrified of leaving my kids orphaned. But there are ways to survive, and in this video I share some of the strategies that I used, and I'm still here 11 years later. You've likely met or know someone who's been on the cancer journey, but I sincerely hope you haven't experienced it yourself. It is one of the most challenging situations we can find ourselves in, right? When I heard this news, my first reaction was, this can't be happening to me. Total denial. Then I had an utter meltdown over the injustice of it all. This is so unfair. I've watched my husband die from this disease. How can this be happening to me now? What? And that led to anger for what my children were going through. They didn't deserve this. And that turned into utter terror, wondering, what if I die? What will become of my children? You can imagine how much of a mess I was. And yet above it all, I knew I couldn't let my children see my fear. I had to somehow be strong for them. I was once told that I was the most positive person they knew by an admiring client years before. But I can tell you, the 5 years between hearing my husband's cancer diagnosis leading up to the moment I heard those terrifying words, "You've got cancer," they were the hardest of my life to be able to see any light or be positive about anything. Truth is, if it hadn't been for my children, I'm sure I would have dissolved into a self-pitying puddle and shut myself off from the world altogether. But that wasn't an option. I had to get my kids to school, I had to cook my meals, and I had to make money as a single parent, or we would lose our house. Now, I'm not sharing this for you to feel sorry for me, not at all. I'm sharing this here because I know that we all face moments when we feel overwhelmed. We face moments when we're in an utter slump and we feel things are just never going to work for us, and we feel our worst. Maybe you're going through your own health challenge, or you fear that you'll never make enough money from your business. Perhaps you've just lost one of your best clients and you're wondering, will you ever find another? Maybe your latest marketing campaign was a flop. Maybe you tried to launch an online course and no one wanted to buy it. We've all been there, haven't we? Or maybe it's more personal and a treasured relationship has ended, or you've lost someone close. Fact is, shit happens, hey? And just because you've spent years studying qualifications in life coaching, counseling, healing, you're not immune. But whatever you're struggling with during such times, it's essential to have strategies in place to help you get through, so you can bounce back stronger than ever and have a way to regain a sense of well-being even during the darkest hours. Now, one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do was tell my children of my diagnosis. We'd only just moved to Australia when I was diagnosed. I'd recently remarried, so they had already gone through some massive changes in their young lives. They were just 14 and 12 when I was diagnosed, and I can still see their little faces looking back at me. I can't talk too much about that because I'm going to blub and you don't need to see that. But what I will say is the tips I'm about to share got me through that day, as well as the surgery, radiotherapy and nearly 2 years of chemo that followed, and all the joys that brings, losing my hair, the only asset I'd ever thought looked good about me. The days after treatment when all I did was puke, and wearing a wig that was, oh my God, so hot and itchy and made me feel like a store dummy. And probably the worst of all was not feeling like a woman anymore, worrying that my new husband wouldn't find me attractive. There was a lot going on, as you can imagine, but I used the following strategies, and I share them here so that the next time you might experience a shitty day or are going through a really bad time and you feel your confidence ebbing, try some of these tips. And as I go through them, please share your thoughts and your own tips in the comments below so we can all learn. The very first thing I'll say that got me through was practicing self-compassion. You see, I felt incredibly guilty for putting my kids through this after they'd had to watch their dad fade away just a few years before. So I had to learn, really learn, to be gentle with myself. Don't beat yourself up for not being at your best. Don't beat yourself up for not being perfect. What is perfect anyway? There are times when we do have to put ourselves first. If we don't, we run the risk of losing all that is dear to us. If I hadn't put myself first at that time and taken the time I needed to recover, I wouldn't have had the joy of watching my children become the amazing adults that they are. So treat yourself with the same compassion that you would extend to a close friend. For me, I let myself indulge in my favourite foods. And just a little aside here, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm English and I grew up loving currants. No, I can't explain it, but anything with currants was a real treat for me. Heavy fruit Christmas cake, yum, yum, yum. In England, I was lucky enough to be able to walk into any bakery and buy an Eccles cake. Oh my gosh, they're just scrummy. Or a plain old currant bun. And what I didn't realise about Australia before we moved was that Eccles cakes were unheard of. And most of the bakery produce here doesn't include currants. What? And I craved a simple, plain currant bun. So I started cooking again and I made myself stuff with currants in it at the same time as trying to eat more fruit and veggies, trying to be a little bit healthy too. So be gentle with yourself, be compassionate. Do something that you really enjoy, brings you joy. And the next thing you can do when things ahead do seem bleak, but you know you've got to keep going, is use mantras or affirmations. If you can combine mantras with anything that you find relaxing, it's going to double the effect. And I know the common saying is we need to fight cancer, but I chose not to fight it. I worked to accept what was happening. You see, for me, fighting means tension and stress. The exact things that I'd been living with for the previous 5 years, ever since my husband's diagnosis, and what I strongly believe contributed to my predicament. So I didn't want to fight the cancer. Instead, I chose to accept it. And I've always been a big fan of letting go that which you can't control. It seems pointless to me worrying about something that's happened that no matter how much you wish it hadn't happened, it has. We can't change what's gone. And until Doctor Who or someone comes up with a time machine, we can't go back and rewrite the past. So instead, accept it and focus on what you have in the now. This moment, right now, is all that we have. So I dug out old relaxation tracks, found new ones, and created a habit where every single night, and sometimes during the day too, I would lie and listen to guided meditations. And I developed a mantra where I told myself that each and every cell in my body was bathed with warmth and love that was melting away any dis-ease. Was it easy to relax at that time? No, not at all. And sometimes, I admit, I would lie there and just cry my way through the tape. I was lucky that I'd learned body scan relaxations in drama club back at secondary school, so my body did know what to do. So find things that you can do to relax. Maybe it's guided meditations, maybe that's not your thing, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. Maybe it's a long walk in nature. Maybe it's a simple deep breathing exercise. Anything that will help you to release tension, even for a few moments, is going to help. Use mindfulness too to help keep yourself focused in the present moment. For me, it really wasn't helpful to think of what had happened, and it didn't help to worry about what might come. All I had was this very moment right now, so I trained myself to focus on it, to relish every single second and make the most. Using relaxation techniques can help calm your mind, your body, and give you a much clearer head for any decisions that you need to make. And this leads me to my next point: break things down. Or, as I say when I'm teaching my goal setting program, chunk down. When you're feeling off or you're struggling to do anything, even the smallest task can feel like an ordeal, right? So break things down into smaller and smaller steps until they feel achievable. Then pick one thing to do, pick it, keep at it until it's done, and then celebrate. For me, I created a calendar each month that broke my time in treatment into treatment days, recovery days, and I used milestones and mini milestones to keep me sane. Teach your inner gremlin to speak positively. It can be really easy to get lost in a swirling vortex of negativity when you find yourself in a bad situation. So learn to challenge your thoughts. Remind yourself of past obstacles that you've overcome and focus on the small wins, no matter how small. For me, surgery was a first step. It was actually quite a big win, and I kept telling myself the cancer had been cut out with the surgery and chemo was just making sure it was all gone. Focus on the wins. Doesn't matter how small. One tool that can help with this is to create a gratitude journal. It can be a really powerful tool to help you get through tough times. No matter how bad things get, there will always be something good to recognize, even if it's just that the sun came up that day. So I encourage you to actively search for these good things, seek them out, become an observer and a seeker of anything good. They are out there. Spend a few moments reflecting on things that you can be grateful for. You see, gratitude helps to shift our focus from a negative one to a much more positive one, which then fosters a more optimistic mindset. Create or do something that gives you purpose. Now, one of the mistakes that I made was that I tried to work through my treatment. When we'd first got to Australia, I'd taken a job in a retail store while I was transferring my business from the UK to here and getting everything set up. And to start with, I thought, yeah, this is going to be fine. I'm just going to keep working, keep it as normal as possible. Part of that thinking was I wanted things to seem the same for my children. But I think it really was just part of the denial that I was going through in the early days of my diagnosis. And one of the best decisions that I made was leaving that place. It gave me time to focus on myself and my recovery. But it also gave me time to take stock. What was I doing with my business? Where did I want to take it? What did I want the future for my business and my life to look like? And so I used the 2 years of chemo to set a new purpose for my life. And that's when I actually studied counselling and qualified as a counsellor so that I could extend the services of my business. I was already a professional business and life coach, but I added counselling to my portfolio. So what is one thing that you've never done but wish you had? Is there a new skill you'd like to learn? Maybe you've always wanted to play the piano but never learned. Maybe you could learn a new language. Find something that brings a new sense of purpose and hope into your life when you're struggling and things look bleak. It'll help you get through the days. And one of the best ways to feel better when you're struggling is to laugh. Now you may be thinking, but Carrie, how can you laugh at such a dark time? And to which I say, there is always something you can find to smile about. Do things that bring you joy. And it can be as simple as listening to your favourite piece of music that brings that smile to your face. Or spend time with those you love who make you laugh. And you'll not be surprised to hear that for me, it was being with my children. The crazy, funny things that kids can say can't help but make you smile. Find people who are supportive and encouraging of you and surround yourself with them. Share your feelings and concerns with someone you trust and can provide the comfort and perspective that you might need. For me, once chemo was finished and I was gradually sort of beginning to feel like myself again, I actually found that I was really reluctant to go out. My hair was growing back, but it was really slow, and I really disliked the wig that I had to wear. And I'd lost a lot of my confidence that I'd worked so hard in my 20s to build. I thought everybody would be looking at me and somehow judging me and knowing I wasn't a whole woman, or wonder why my hair looked exactly the same every single day. And of course, my friends were all back in the UK. And in fact, some had walked away when my husband died because they told me they couldn't be around such sadness. So here I was in a new country, no friends, but I found a local support group for women who'd gone through the same cancer that I had. That group was incredible. We met every week, we did a little bit of aqua aerobics, and we shared lunch. If any of you ladies are watching, thank you for the laughter that we had and the companionship. And in fact, I met my new best friend. And to this day, we still share the kind of close bond that can only come from shared trauma. Pick the tips that work for you, but above all, please be gentle with yourself. Know that you deserve to be here. Love who you are and focus on making the most of each and every moment that we have. I sincerely wish health and light for you, and would love for you to let me know which of the tips to help you get through difficult times you found most helpful. Put them in the comments below, and if you have any tips of your own, please share them so that we can all learn from each other. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.